Hey friends, we are at checkpoint number 2 in this coaching journey. I'm really excited that we get to talk about our leadership capacity. It's so important, and if you haven't, for whatever reason, seen the initial Trailhead training, go ahead and check it out. It's called Your Expansion Era. Your Expansion Era. What it really takes to scale, to really grow your capacity as a leader. Without it, we are not going to be prepared to take on new responsibility and seize the opportunities that come with it. But when we do, then we can show up ready, and that's a wonderful thing. Trailhead training, the audio podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever, you can check that out. Your Expansion Era. Then on the email trail here, we started with the first checkpoint, which was a self-guided assessment, really just to get a sense of how would you begin to think about your capacity. We're going to do that again with another assessment tool, but this is going to be focused more on your leadership culture. So the way you act, interact, and react with other people on the team in your team culture. Might be a business, could be a company, community, I guess that's the same thing. A business, a community, nonprofit, movement, whatever you want to describe it as. Could just be some sort of e-com store. That counts too. But I'm really excited about this. Thinking through. Check it out. Let's get into it. So we want to be looking at the following areas: the values of your leadership culture, the dialogue in your leadership culture, which is just basically how do people talk to each other when you're working on stuff, when you're getting the work done. Teamwork, the level of cooperation and collaboration. Is it synergistic? Or is it territorial? And then leadership, how do leaders in the organization get treated? And then how do new leaders get developed or deployed? And then finally, planning. How do you actually implement strategies for the future? And so you got two options. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry here. But number one, your values. Are they very clear in the team's mind, collective mind, so to speak? Or is it very cluttered? In other words, if I singled everybody out on the team and I said, hey, give me 5 minutes each. And then they come in and then they've got like a little index card or some sort of tablet. And I said, hey, write down what you do and what's most important right now. More likely than not, and this is just part of it, you're going to get 5, 10, 100 different answers. They're thinking of different things, or maybe they're describing it in different ways. Or is it clear? Does everybody understand why we're here, what we're here to do, and how we're going to accomplish it in very specific, measurable ways, if possible? Dialogue. How do people have conversations? Are the conversations leaning towards decision making? In other words, we're actually looking for the shortest path from idea to decision. Whether it's great idea, run with it, or whether it's, hey, thanks for sharing, not yet, not going to happen. Are we making that route shorter by looking to be decisive, getting it done, getting a decision made, finding the action step associated with that conversation? Or are we stretching out that route? Are we basically meandering and then ending up on the path of least resistance? The path of least resistance is already made. Okay? Let me say that up tight. The path of least resistance has already been paved out. Man, it's beautiful. It's well manicured. There's great landscaping. There's great scenery. There's a lot of people coming and going. There's probably a food truck somewhere down it. The path of least resistance looks great. But the path that you and I are on, which is how do we shorten the distance? How do we actually shorten the distance between where we are and where we need to be next? That path has not been made yet. And that's why you and I are there to do work. We're there to pioneer the shortest path between where we are and where we need to be. Okay. Next, dialogue. When we talk, is there a lot of air and fluff? I'm not saying it's not warm and personable. I'm saying when it's time to talk about the work that needs to get done, are we dismissive and even avoidant? Or are we being intentional, organized, decisive? All right, moving on to the next category, which is teamwork, the way we work together. Do we say that we're a team, or do we actually function as a team? Are we team in name only, but we're really just kind of this handful of people that are all fending for themselves and trying to get their own thing accomplished? Or are we really synergistic in the way we coordinate and collaborate? Okay, and I think one of the filters for this is look at the teamwork. Does it look organized, or is it overwhelmed? Because that is going to sniff out whether the teamwork in your organizational culture, in your leadership culture, is it intentional or is it accidental? Did we get this project accomplished because there were a few, willing people to carry more of the load, and so they just kind of got it done without the other people's help? Or was there an intentional effort? Are there evidences of design in the way we do teamwork? Meaning there's values, there's culture, there's structure, there's systems, right? Is it organized around that kind of teamwork? Or does it just feel overwhelming? Man, when you get around this hub where work is happening, it feels more like an airport terminal than it feels like a workspace, because everybody's just kind of coming and going and they're all doing their own thing, and it's just like herding cats. Okay, next is leadership. How are leaders treated? How are leaders trained? Big deal. Is it empowering? Is the leadership dynamic, the leadership piece in your team culture, is it empowering? Or is it embarrassing? And there is a measure of cringe in leadership cultures. I mean, just by the way people carry themselves, if there's like either some sort of entitlement or if there's some sort of superiority, which is juxtaposed with servant leadership, right? That can get really weird. So leadership, think about it. And then the next one is planning. I was kind of going back and forth on which words to use here, but really that's what it comes down to. The leaders are the ones that are making up plans worth investing time, resource, people, power into. So is the strategy going to be future focused, or is it just going to be irrelevant? And what I mean by that is, man, we talk a lot about stuff, but it doesn't pan out. It's not going to happen. It's just going to become irrelevant at the end of this. When the other side is future focused, means we are very proactive, we're very intentional, and we get results because of it. All right, so now that you've got this idea, the values are clear, dialogue might be a little, avoidant, teamwork, a little bit overwhelming, leadership, empowering, future focus, you've got your answers. But I want to challenge you and encourage you and let you know one of the biggest roadblocks that leaders have to overcome is familiarity, because we're talking about our work so often. We're living in the business so much. I mean, it's all we eat, sleep, breathe, do. And we need healthy feedback. We need helpful perspectives to kind of pull us out of that and let us see what we don't see normally. And so here is another tool that you can use. How did you respond to those assessment tool questions? Or how would your team respond? How would your team answer those questions? What would your team say about the values? Are they clear or cluttered? How would your team respond to, planning? Is it future focused or is it irrelevant? How would your team say you are on training and treating leaders? Very empowering, very, slightly embarrassing. Whatever that is, you can do this just honestly the way you would think, or you can do it with some sort of anonymous quiz. You can do it as a focus group. However you want to do it, whatever comfort level, whatever bravery level you have, I want you to aim for the middle. Because there are going to be some answers you have, they're kind of far removed. They're on the other side of it, either hypercritical or, maybe a little more flattering. On the other side, your team will have answers. Some of the answers, they're like spaghetti. You throw it on the wall, on the ceiling, see if it sticks, whatever. But aim for the middle. Aim for that part where there's some overlap, where you can find common ground. You say, okay, this is something that we can work on together. That will help you. I'm going to stop here. Let's see what the next slide is. Yep, we're going to talk about cultivating. That is the next checkpoint in your expansion era. And this is where we really get to talk about starting where you are, working on your base, making sure that you have a really strong work environment that is getting relationally rooted. It's developing this really strong core team, and then it's branching out with a lot of fruit-bearing initiatives. I'm using a tree metaphor here. So that's what we're going to look at next, and I hope you're a part of that checkpoint. I'll see you real soon.